couple of years into this, the number of complaints have grown astronomically. The 311 complaints in the area here about the vendors. We've gotten significant complaints from business owners that are losing clientele because the vendors are setting up shop right in front of their own stores, selling either the same food or the same products that are there. Crime has gone up. The statistics don't lie. In the last month alone, there was 12 felony arrests in Corona Plaza itself, 77 since the beginning of the year. You know, that's not bringing in commerce, it's bringing in crime. And that's a real problem here. The residents have had enough. Look, I've supported expanding and actually voted to expand the number of licenses for vendors at the City Council. We did exactly what the Street Vendor Project wanted us to do. But the fact of the matter is, what is happening in Corona Plaza and all along Roosevelt Avenue is just out of control. It's chaos. You can't have propane tanks that are stored underneath the staircasing of the number 7 train. It's very dangerous, it's hazardous. There was an explosion there, about 6 months ago to a year. The fact is that we need to clean that up. And we cannot just have one group of people do whatever they like when we have business owners that are paying property taxes, that are paying rent, losing businesses. We've had them come in here and say, look, I can't compete. If you're selling, a taco for $2 on the street, who's gonna come into my store and my restaurant where I gotta pay a kitchen staff, I gotta pay a wait staff, I got all these other expenses. I can't compete with that. And that's the reality. And so for me, we're not looking to take food off anybody's table here. We should be looking to find solutions, whether it's finding a designated zone where they can go and sell their goods, or there's a conversation that needs to happen about, whether we're expanding the number of licenses. But the reality is the way it's structured there, that cannot continue. And that's one of the reasons why I've asked for help from the administration to come in here and help clean this up, to really respond to the business owners and the numerous residents that have complained about the situation that's going on in Corona Plaza.
So will you just break down the permit situation to me? There was obviously there was a rally just held about an hour ago, and a lot of the advocates, some of the elected officials there, were complaining that there's not enough permits being given out. You said you voted for them. How many permits did that go ahead, and was
so it expanded. It was under the de Blasio administration, where it expanded the number of licenses to 400 throughout the city. But there's also a certain reality. A lot of these vendors know that they're not going to be able to get the license to sell the food the way they're selling it at Corona Plaza. It would never pass the health inspections, anything remotely that would deal with something like that. We're doing them a disservice by telling them that they're going to be able to get a license just if we expand the number, because the reality is that the way they're selling their food is something that could not, continue to go on that way. It wouldn't get past the health inspection, like I said. But at the same time, you look at restaurants and what they have to go through, right? They have to have the meat at a certain temperature. All these health and safety and sanitation, sanitary issues that they have to take place, or else they get fined or they get a letter grade that is, below what it should be as a standard. This is unregulated, and we just can't have that. So I'm all about looking at solutions to this. But the answer can't be just let us do what we want, because this is what we need to be, this is what we want to be doing here. That's just not it. Like we have rules, we have regulations, and if the local business owners are following those rules, there can't be one group that's exempt from following them as well.
So you're saying the food that they sell is actually a safety concern to the general public?
Absolutely. I mean, look, in order to get a vendor's license to sell food, you have to have a certain, standard in which the health department comes in and all the other agencies that make sure that the meat is being cooked properly, it's being handled properly. They're selling food underneath the elevated train station where, you can see all the pigeon poop that's all over the streets. It's just so many different things that make it just not a sanitary place to be selling food. And in the containers that they have, you can't have propane tanks outside. You can't be grilling and selling the food, and the way they're handling the food there, it's just not what would allow anyone here in the city of New York to legally sell that, right?
So it appears that these vendors are flouting the law, flouting the regulations, and they were...
Absolutely. Look, for me, I have no problem. There's some vendors that have an actual license to actually sell there, and they're there currently. And they'll even tell you that they've been harassed by the vendors that go there. Right. They've come and complained to the office that they've gotten threats. They've been told to move, to get out of there. They take up the spots. They have put cinder blocks and chains and even concrete for their tents to be there permanently. They chain their chairs to trees that are there. This is like chaos. They're selling alcohol. There's drugs that are being sold in there. Like I said, the statistics don't lie. You're bringing in high quality crime. There's even been videos in which they're showing people saying they're sell them more alcohol because when they're drunk they're gonna want to eat more. Right? That is not what we want to do here. This community is a destination for so many wonderful things. We have the Queens Museum, we have the Louis Armstrong Museum, we have the World's Fair, Flushing Meadows Corona Park that's here. Numerous attractions for people to come to, and we are probably the best area that has the best ethnic restaurants in the city of New York. That's the destination. It isn't to come to a plaza that looks like it's chaos, where the smell of urine is there. You see people who are passed out on the street. You can't even walk there. We've had teachers, principals that are close to Roosevelt Avenue that complain about that. The business owners that say they throw the grease, in the sewers, on the streets. They're the ones getting the tickets from the Department of Sanitation. This has to change. And it is a wake-up call for anyone who is saying that things should just go back to normal, because whoever's saying that isn't in touch with the actual community itself. And while I understand that the vendors want to make a living, there's a way to do that. That setup that is over there is not the way. And I think that people can't just be tone deaf and listen to one subset of people here in the community. They have to listen to everyone in this community. I lived here my entire life. I'm born and raised in Corona, Queens. I bought the house I grew up in. 103rd Street is the train station that I take to go into Manhattan or anywhere else. I've never seen it this bad, and the residents here have never seen it this bad. The fact that they will say, I'd rather take the bus to another train station or take a taxi somewhere else to get to Manhattan because it's the conditions are so deplorable that they won't go there. We had parents and business owners that were in my office last week with Sanitation and NYPD saying, I don't let my 12-year-old take the subway to go to school or anything because I live 1 block away from Junction Boulevard and it's a disaster. People can't live like that. The businesses can't live in fear. People deserve to live in a safe and clean community. We should all be coming together to make sure that we're living in an area that we're proud of. What's happening there is not something that anyone can say that they're proud of what has been going on. Anyone that sees the violent crime that's gone on, the drugs that are being sold there, the prostitution that is taking place all around that area, no one can say that this is something that's bringing in a positive impact on the community.
Okay, so the Department of Sanitation did a sweep, I believe, last week, and that
Yep.
sparked the rally today. So what are your thoughts on the sweep by the Department of Sanitation last week? And just
Look, I think it was very important for them to come in. I think I have to say that the Department of Sanitation did a great job. They went in there and gave information out first. They didn't take or confiscate any of the materials or carts or anything like that. They went in, they gave the flyers to people, they explained to them the process, that they couldn't legally sell, the goods that they had right there, in multiple languages as well, to ensure that everyone understood that. They came back and said, look, you can't be here, we're gonna be present here. They gave people multiple opportunities, to move. This wasn't like they came in guns blazing. They were actually communicating with the vendors and letting them know that they cannot continue operating this way. They gave them information on how to apply for a permit, all the rules and regulations that are there. And some listened and others didn't. And then they came in, gave a final warning, but we have to move on ensuring that we're applying the laws to everyone, and not just saying that you're exempt from the rules because you've just gotten away with doing this for the last few years.
I think that was conveyed in one of the press releases today, that the vendors didn't get warnings. So
That's a complete lie. I was present with, and when I say present, we have gotten the videos, the pictures of them giving out the information, going and telling them multiple times that they cannot be there if they continue to be there. Look, if they want to create a different narrative than what is the actual reality, that's one thing. I'm going to deal with facts. And the facts are this: that sanitation came in after they saw the videos of business owners, residents that all sent these videos to my office and to them as well, and looked at this and said, no, this can't be. So they're going to go, and they said, we're spending the next 2 weeks giving out information, letting them know that they can't be here, and the rules and regulations here. Now, a week later, they came back, and then they started telling them that they had to leave. The fact is, how do you not know that you cannot put cinder blocks on a public sidewalk? You can't bring concrete and have the legs of your tents cemented to the ground because this is where you want to sell, your food. I even had planters that $80,000, these huge planters that were there to beautify the plaza. They picked them up and they moved them to the side so that they can set up their shops there. At some point, you don't own, these are public streets, right? The people deserve to commute to and from the train station in a safe and clean manner. Business owners should not be closing up shop. They should not be losing business because someone is setting up in front of their stores with competing merchandise. That can't go on. I'm all about how we look for solutions here, but the current status, it can't continue.
And the Department of Sanitation confiscate items, or what?
They did not confiscate items. The only confiscation that they did was for people that abandoned the location and they were cemented or on cinder blocks on the street.
So I was just at a rally. A lot of your colleagues were there in the City Council, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Borough President Donovan Richards. Yeah. You weren't there. Will you tell me why you weren't there?
One, I wasn't invited, so that's clear. Two, I don't agree with them. They can have their opinion. I'm listening to my constituents. Okay, I'm listening to the people in this community that have been complaining and crying out for help for years now on the problem that they have allowed to exacerbate in Corona Plaza. For those that don't live here and don't represent this community, I can't give an opinion about that. I know my neighborhood just like I wouldn't go into someone else's neighborhood and start giving an opinion about what I think is best for that area. You know, for me, I listen to the community that I grew up in, the people that I've known for many, many years, and the business owners that have been here for years that are saying, we can't last any longer with the conditions that we're facing right here. The number of complaints, we get 20 on average per week now about this. The complaints that have come to 311, it's through the roof on street vendors. And it's not just in Corona Plaza, it's leading out to other areas. They're setting up in front of residential homes that they don't even live in. Homeowners have come out and said, you can't set up here. They put tables and chairs, music, sell alcohol. Like, this is not a place where you can just do whatever you like, right? We have to follow the laws, we have to follow the regulations. We also have to be good neighbors, right? We have to care for our community. We have to clean up the area. You know, they say that they're cleaning up after themselves. I mean, the pictures don't lie. And if anyone looks at that and says that that's okay, then we have a serious fundamental difference on what we think actually is something that is creating a positive impact on the community and one that is creating the opposite of that.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that today from the speakers about the sanitary conditions. It was more or less that the city needs to do more to provide trash cans and stuff for the vendors. And I also spoke to other people on the ground, and they said that they still just that there's trash cans there, but the vendors just leave stuff behind, and they have no interest in.
But look, I think the problem is, sure, I mean, we're all about finding solutions. I even proposed that we, put kiosks there, just like we do in other parts of the city, in public spaces, where you have to compete to actually get a kiosk. We can decide on the number of kiosks. Again, they would have to go through that process to bid on those kiosks. But to say that we should be doing, we should allow this to continue is just plain wrong. And I think the community and the business owners will tell you the same thing. I'm all about looking at solutions, but again, we have to be very, very clear to the vendors, right? I want to be helpful. I don't want to see anyone not be able to make a living here in the city of New York. That's why I voted in favor of expanding the number of permits that would be given. But at the same time, they have to let them know what actually would be able to be sold, right? These are things that they're not told. I feel that we have this big disconnect now, where it's one group in the community versus the other, and people are asking for clean streets, safe neighborhood. Business owners want to thrive in this community, but it can't be at the cost of what's happening there right now. And that's the biggest problem that we face here.
Do you think the elected officials were sending out the wrong message today?
Well, I clearly disagree with the notion that we should just allow them to still stay there and do what they were doing before the sweeps came in, because that's just not it. I do agree that we have to look for solutions here, and whether that's looking at expanding the number of permits or looking for designated zones for vendors, I'm all for that. I've always said that from the very beginning. But what we cannot tolerate is lawlessness. We cannot tolerate just anyone being able to do whatever they like and not face a certain consequence here, because the community is the one that's suffering.
You mentioned at the start of the interview that there was maybe a dozen arrests. Can you tell me what the arrests were for?
Well, they're 12 felony arrests, so I mean, I don't have them off top of my head, but it's on ComStat, it's public information.
Okay.
77 since the beginning of the year, just in Corona Plaza alone. That says a lot. A felony arrest is something serious. It's not a petty crime, it's actually something serious, right? And that's something that, if this truly was a hub of destination, if they were keeping it clean, if they were doing, that wouldn't be happening. And they know you can't sell alcohol there. but the alcohol is being sold there, right in the open. That just can't be allowed.
And it was initially set up as a public area
Yeah,
for children and families, I understand.
Yeah, but no one can go and enjoy the plaza. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the videos. It speaks for itself.
So another big issue for the neighbourhood is illegal prostitution, massage parlours who are really operating as brothels. It's been a concern of yours. Can you give me some insight and some detail as to what's been going on in the neighbourhood?
Yeah, look, like I said, I've lived here my entire life and I've never seen it this bad. I've never seen it out in the open and exposed like it is now. If you walk there right now, you'll see, women standing out front soliciting for massages. We had to deal with this issue a year ago where they set up a massage parlor. It was about 50 meters from the entrance of one of the schools. And the complaints came from the principal, the parents. They're like, at dismissal, they're walking past women that are soliciting, for massages and other things. Like, that can't be. If it's a legal massage parlor, it has to have a license that's clearly in the front window or the front, door of the establishment. They're not allowed to be outside soliciting the way they are. The fact that they've been allowed to, just stand out there, what message are we sending the community? Like, we've had complaints of mothers and parents that come in here and say, I can't even walk, the street because it's like, it's out there. I don't want my kid to see this. You have them set up in front of legitimate businesses that are like, people do not shop in my store anymore because they're standing out there, soliciting for, sex. I saw this video that came about, like, it was one of those where, like, I was shocked. This is on Facebook and it was on YouTube, and it has the two men that are saying, come to Corona. It's the destination to meet women, and they'll show you how to negotiate, a price for the different sex acts that they can, get from these women. Like I said before, this area is a destination for so much more. From the cultural establishments that we have here to the wonderful ethnic restaurants that exist in this community, to so many other wonderful things that we have here. This is not what needs to be promoted around the world and on social media, that this is a place to come here to meet women. We understand that there is much that needs to be done in areas like this when it deals with human trafficking. That's why I've funded several groups, here in the area that deal specifically with that. But we have to figure out ways to either close down those establishments, go after the landlords or whoever it is that's allowing that to be operated, in their storefronts or in their buildings. That can't exist anymore. And, we're very grateful that the mayor has come and has heard the cries from the community and is taking action. Because without the administration's support, this would be going on rampantly throughout, and we would not be curing the problem that we're facing right now.
So what's the solution here in terms of prostitution? Should there be more enforceability by the NYPD? I know the mayor was down here last week. What is the short-term solution, at least?
Well, look, I think, one of the things we have to do is work with all, the agencies that, have to be involved here, right? We understand clearly that a lot of these women may be, part of a human trafficking ring, or we don't want to make the mistakes of the past, but at the same time, we can't allow this to happen. There's ways in which we can go after them, and it's going after the establishment, going after the landlords, closing them down. You can take buildings, you can take all the agencies that would be involved. If it's a legitimate massage parlor or a spa, they have to have licenses, and if they don't, then they will be able to close them down. Go after the men who are actually, going in there and soliciting or going in there. It shouldn't just be that it stops with that. You know, we have to do a full-on approach to this and be able to have these non-for-profit groups that are based here in the community as well, that will be able to offer support for any of these women or any individual that is, you know, there against their will, and be able to look at that from the human aspect of what's going on. But we just cannot allow this to continue out in the open the way it is currently.
Do you think if there was a hard crackdown on it that you would get probably blowback, as in today you saw that there was a crackdown on the vendors and then some politicians rallied behind them, and there's a lot of politicians that want to decriminalise prostitution, and that's a separate issue kind of, but...
That's just it. Well, those are two separate issues, right? You know, if we want to talk about the decriminalization, or if you want to talk about legalizing prostitution, that's one thing. But currently, that's not what's happening right now. So for me, no one should be walking the streets of their neighborhood and having to see the things that they're seeing right now that are real quality of life issues that are impacting this community negatively. Look, people can have their opinions. I represent this neighborhood. I adhere to the people that call this office, that live in this neighborhood next to me, that I have known my entire life. And I have to stand up for those voices that are being drowned out by a loud but few group of people that come out not wanting to see the changes that need to happen to better the quality of life in this community. I am all about listening to everyone, which I have. I've sat down, I've worked on these issues. Like I've said, I've voted on expanding the number of permits here. But what's happening right now in Corona is kind of like a free-for-all. It's like, you can do whatever you like, and there's no consequences to this. And so the community is suffering from this. People are moving. People that don't want to move are moving. People who will say to you, I have to order my groceries because I no longer walk down these streets to the supermarket that I used to go to because, you know, of what's happening there. Open drug sales, you know, in front of laundromats, the prostitution that's all along Roosevelt Avenue, the vendors that are there. I mean, this is not creating a place that anyone would want to come and live in. And the people that are living here should not live in fear. They should not be held hostage to people who do not want to abide by the laws that we have here. This has to change. And yes, we will do it compassionately, but at the same time, we have to go after, you know, those that are running these establishments. You know, that's at the heart of it. Those that run the establishments are the ones that should be the ones that get penalized for all of this. Landlords know what they're doing. You know, whoever is running those things, they know what they're doing. The authorities know who's doing it, and they need to take action.
Are a lot of these problems tied to, let's say, illegal immigration? Because people who come here, they're undocumented, they don't have permits to work, and they end up selling food on the street because they have no choice. And someone, might imagine, would go into prostitution, and because
there's a whole host of reasons of why things are the way they are. I've always been at the forefront of how we can help our immigrant communities, from writing the New York State Dream Act to the New York Liberty Act, to driver's licenses for all, to expanding the programs throughout the state of New York so that we're providing immigration lawyers in immigration court. These are the things that I've done to help out our immigrant community. But at the same time, what I think that we need to do is also focus on the fact that, you know, the same business owner that owns the bodega is an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. The bakery on the corner of 103rd Street is a Mexican immigrant. The owner of the restaurant across the street is an Ecuadorian immigrant. we all have our immigrant stories and ties, but they're doing the right thing. This is, if the congressperson wanted to do something, she would help ensure that the federal government looks at this and classifies the state of New York in a state of emergency to help us with the migrant crisis so that we get the funding that we need to be able to house and support the number of migrants that are coming to New York, because that's the only way this changes at the federal level. If our federal partners really want to make change, they would start talking about real immigration reform, pathway to residency or citizenship. That's not being said. I don't hear any of that conversation happening at all. What I hear is let them do what they, what they want to do here because they're trying to make a living. How about finding real long-term solutions that help the new arriving immigrants that are here, but also are protecting the small businesses and the residents that have been living here for a very long time and are seeing their own communities come under siege. That's the real solution. The federal government has to step up and help the city of New York deal with a real migrant crisis that we're facing. I take my hat off to the mayor, who's been doing, the best that he can with the situation that he's inherited here. When you're getting this many migrants per day, we already had a housing crisis that we were facing, prior to the migrants being bused to New York. Now that's exacerbated that. And so what we need is real solutions. We need the governor of the state of New York to declare the state of New York a state of emergency. We need our federal partners, our members of Congress, to tell the Biden administration that they need to help in terms of bringing real funding to help solve the crisis that we're facing right now, or else this is only going to get worse.
But isn't this a part of a consequence of a kind of a type of open border strategy where people are coming in here and then there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to work, and then the knock-on effect is you're going to see this on...
Right, but the federal government is the only one that can authorize a work permits or emergency work permits for migrants to start working here. They're the only ones that can deal with immigration reform. They're the only ones that can actually agree with the state and say there is a state of emergency here and bring funding here so that it helps us alleviate the problem that we're facing, because we're running out of room. We're running out of resources. And they're the only ones that can actually solve that problem. New York City, it's considered the global economic engine for the entire country, yet we don't receive the same funds back that we put in. And that's a problem. And we need people that are in Washington to step up and vocalize why it's critical for the federal government to come in here and help with the situation that we're facing right now. The mayor can't do it alone. Part of what we do here is make sure that we're bringing in resources as well to help the families, the migrant families that are here in this community. We've received a lot of, I think we're one of the largest school districts that received the largest number of migrant children here, making sure that they have programs that they can attend to, whether it's through soccer, whether it's through giving them, supplies, funding for food insecurity, all those things. We're looking at this from the perspective as New Yorkers has always looked at this. This is a city that was founded by immigrants. It's what makes New York and our stories great. And when we come together to help solve a problem, and we can see how we do that, that's where the partnership between government and these communities really can work well together. To me, being able to help fund organizations that can help these children here in this community, to help families that are in need, is so critical. And none of this could have not been done without the help and support of the mayor and this administration that has been doing a great job in trying to help solve some of these problems by creating programs and bringing funding here to this district.